Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another commentary done by Diggity. This is BSL 17 Hasuleague round of 16 Group A. Second match between Rotj and Hejek. Upper left hand corner we got Rotj starting as the yellow Protoss. Bottom right hand corner we got Hejek starting as the midnight blue Zerg. We have a bunch of best of three here's. Best of threes here. Say that properly. And I'm not sure if that's going to continue. Also, I'm missing some replays from this group. They were required for the round of 16. I'm not sure what's going on there, but hopefully we won't have any other problems moving forward throughout the groups. This is on Neo Dark Origin, which has been, honestly, I think my favorite map in this season of BSL. It's very, very entertaining. It's just created some interesting matchups overall. I think I also have a special place in my heart from some of the interesting matches it created from the New York LAN. Anyway, game one, if you missed it or were unawares, Rotj ended up taking it, which surprises me a bit because I definitely know Hejek, and Hejek is bumped in and out of Pro League and Hasuleague, where I am less familiar with Rotj. And Rotj just getting a good macro flood and able to take Hejek out, which reconfirms what I've been saying through large pieces of this. Looks like the Overlord's going to end up missing that probe scout sneaking across. Pylons start. Are we going to see a... Okay, this could get in. This could be a quick victory here. Overpool for Hejek, but a very fast scout from Rotj, and he's going to be able to find the spawning pool, which lets him know he needs to go Forge first, or should go Forge or Gateway first. Let's see what he, in fact, opts to do. But that was a very fast scout, which should give alarm bells to Hejek. Let's see if Hejek actually moves this drone out. He could keep it. No, yeah, he's going to move out with the drone scout as well, because he's curious what's going on in the opposite end. It looks like Rotj still going to go for a 12 Nexus, or never mind, he's floating the resources and just walking by. I was like, okay. Floating a lot of resources there, a very late Forge, but again, let's see if Hejek actually makes him pay for it or not. Two drones out at the natural expansion to go ahead and deny that. One thing from Hejek game one is he went for the overpool, but didn't produce Zerglings, which confuses me a bit. This time we have a pair of Zerglings to start, which can help pressure that probe away, but at the same time, with the eyes, so having this probe nearby, Rotj notices, okay, that wasn't a full flood of creation of just two Zerglings basically on the ground, so he knows he can delay that cannon quite a bit, and honestly could fight off two Zerglings with just probes if he wanted to. So cannon behind should be able to get that Forge down the Gateway down as well, and the Zerglings not even making their way towards the main, so if he wanted to risk it, he could probably cancel that cannon as well. But Gateway going ahead and getting constructed, and it looks like Hejek going to go for that 3-base play before gas once again. A little bit of a misplay right there, got his gas down ahead of time, so slight off the build, going to produce an additional pair of Zerglings. But with the 3-hatch play, the one advantage of going overpool into the 3-hatch is you can do some very rapid economic recovery, because you got the extra larva and extra mineral patches with which to mine from. But it does delay things a bit on the Zerg side of the map. In the meantime, Rotj going to go floating some minerals here back and forth, so dropping the gas right there. Has not yet dropped his, so he's got everything out on the front, is producing an initial zealot. No, we don't see any cybernetics core as of yet. Drone pulling off the line, getting a shot on that probe before drawing back towards the main. Probe's been hit quite a bit, but wants to stay in, provide as much information as long as possible. Now it's going to get wiped out of the natural expansion, but did not see a tech delayer in that period of time. I don't think there was looks like there wasn't quite enough gas for that to happen in the first place. We do have a spawning pool morphing, and a zealot now making its way out towards the third once again. Overlord from Hejek making its way between both locations just to make sure that Rotj is playing honestly. Gonna make sure that cybernetics score is in fact constructing. So the zealot, never mind, it's pocketing at the 10 o'clock position, or sorry, the 2 o'clock position. Now going to start making his way to the 3 o'clock location. Handful of Zerglings in the meantime waiting at the natural expansion to potentially engage it. Yeah, Zealot waiting on the high ground, maybe waiting for drones to filter through. And again, it's going to be a similar build to game one, where we're seeing 3-hatch Hydralisk to fold back into 4 and 5-hatch. Very old school build, 3-hatch Hydralisk versus Protoss. Haven't seen it in quite some time. It's interesting to see it from Hejek here. But the Zergling's able to march up, find the Zealot. That should be a pretty easy kill, and especially with the Yeah, able to trade off and not even lose a Zergling. Nice bit of micro. Solid bit of micro right there. Drone saturating. Natural expansion, pretty solid. We do have the Stargate being produced and +1 weapons invested in. 8 Zerglings making their way towards the front. This time we have a little bit of a larger Zealot count. 3 Zealots moving out right this second. And a probe being left to go ahead and blockade. The Zealots looking to engage the Zerglings, maybe create a bit of chaos. At the very least, should, force a couple additional Zerglings. Looks like a 4th hatchery being dropped at the corners. This is where it varies a bit from earlier forms of 3 hatchery plays. If I recall, it's been a while. In earlier forms of 3 hatchery, you still just built Hydralisks much earlier. Where here we have a few Hydralisks being tacked on, but we have 4th hatchery being added much earlier to make and a 5th hatchery being added on as well. Actually, so yeah, just straight, ignore what I'm saying. This is just straight 5 hatch, it looks like, rather than a 3 hatch Hydralisk build into continuation. A little bit of flexibility there. So +1 weapons still being invested in, 2 gateways, and a Corsair going to be produced. Citadel of Adun there early once again. I'm wondering if we're going to have the early leg speed from Rotj one more time, or delay in leg speed this time to allow for additional tech. I'm hoping we see the delay in leg speed for additional tech. Corsair making its way out. Sees the Zerglings at forward position. It looks like they're going to go ahead and take out that Overlord. I think seeing this grouping of Zerglings, maybe giving Rotj some sort of indication that it's more 5 hatch play than it is. So getting the free kill where he can. That's going to put Hejek in the red. And Hejek going ahead and making a SimCity on the front. This is much more standard of modern play. We got +1 weapons on the way. Second gas is up, so he's going to have some gas flexibility. And I'm wondering if he's going to do what I've seen many players do up to this stage, so getting the range, getting the Overlord speed, but I'm wondering if he's going to try to cycle towards Hive a little bit more rapidly, as I've seen Zerg, including Hejek, experimenting with that. And the issue with doing that is, yeah, your Zerglings end up a little bit more powerful in the mid game, but at the same time, you get exposed to those gateway flood windows, and it looks like we are in fact seeing a delay on the leg speed Templar Archives earlier. 3 Corsairs making their way out in sufficient numbers, and could provide a lot of harassment. I kind of like the 3 count with the +1 weapons, because it's not an overinvestment in Corsair, and works well when there's no Spire out as well, and it's enough to provide that scouting information and get a lot of damage done otherwise. It looks like it's going to be 6 hatch Hydralisk at this stage. Rotj not moving forward, or sorry, yeah, Rotj not moving forward with those Corsairs to get the scouting information. And the Zealot's starting to march out. Now we have Zealot leg speed, and it looks like armor starting after +1 weapons. I think that was just a fake out from Hejek's standpoint to make him think that maybe get him to overproduce some troops. And we are seeing a whole lot of Hydralisks being constructed, and a Sunken Colony as well, triggering. So Rotj forcing, it looks like, extra construction rather than drone saturation in the midst of this. But that's really going to allow Hejek to shell up, and he's again got a very healthy drone count. We have just 3 gateways behind this with Rotj. He's building High Templar rather than a Dark Templar as far as a follow-up. No Psystorm upgraded as of yet, but he can go ahead. The nice thing about High Templar is they sit there and build that energy, whether Psystorm is researched or not. We do have 1 Dark Templar blocking the gap, and another Overlord going to get taken out on the front. One great thing about clearing those Overlords as well is that allows this Dark Templar to press forward and get a lot of free Zerg kills, and that forces, first of all, nice supply cap, but secondarily forces Hejek into a more defensive stance away from the front where you can get a sealed containment, and that's very important on Neo Dark Origin. 3 Overlords now joining the Hydralisk Zergling force towards the front. +1 weapons just about to finish. So we got a handful of Zealots, a good amount of High Templar, but Psystorm not even started, and honestly, this is a very bustable front door. So Hejek moving up, testing the front, 2 cannons drawing him back, but he has enough Hydralisks where he could easily take down the Gateway in the Forge or bait out some Psystorms. Rotj recognizing the danger, dropping 2 additional cannons. The Corsair remaining active. Hejek looking instead to maybe position and grab that 3 o'clock. Dark Templar has been spotted. Let's see if we can cycle over to that 3 o'clock to go ahead and deny that base. Looks like Hejek not making his way that direction. So the drone, yeah, rechecked. Should be an easy kill. I like the Overlord in the northern position as well to see if there's anything snuck to that corner. Hatchery being constructed. It's, well, now that the hatchery is underway, I presume that Hejek is going to be able to just move up fairly rapidly and defend this. That Overlord going to sacrifice his life. Rotj, okay, it is a forced cancellation. The Dark Templar backing up. That cancellation is actually huge. Because of that cancellation, that's going to be a very delayed fourth now in comparison. The Dark Templar moving back out, that's going to be a redrop. That's a lot of time. The Dark Templar still might be able to get some Zergling kills on the corner of the, because the Overlords, even though they do have speed upgrade, Dark Templar still can outrun them. And this is giving Rotj a lot of time to go ahead and get that gateway count up. Supplement a lot of units, get the upgrades rolling. Does he have a second forge as of yet? Just pylons here in the background, a bunch of gateways. There's that second forge constructing. But in the meantime, this was my concern in the previous match, although it ended up with a Rotj victory overall, is Hejek's got 4 bases and a lot of, soon to be 4 bases and a lot of economy to work with. He is going ahead and dropping that Queen's Nest in that Evolution Chamber. I believe he's comfortable in this situation. He's got a pretty good spread, and this is a lot harder to breach in comparison to other maps. And if the Lurkers move up, it's going to be even worse. This is a big danger for any Protoss players. Yeah, you have access to this 3rd base, but it can be a big pain trying to breach the middle of the map to follow it up. We also have a Spire being tacked on at the 3 o'clock location, which is a bit hidden from Rotj's view, but also opens up the possibility for a quick Mutalisk swap, and that would leave the main and natural expansion somewhat vulnerable. It looks like some cannons are being placed. I think more to ward off drops than ward off potential Mutalisk play. Rotj able to cycle some troops out to the 9 o'clock. It looks like some Lurkers are going to find them. This is before the Observer is in position. One Lurker getting picked off immediately, but this is going to draw some of those troops back. Observer's now making the way this direction. That's leaving that Lurker very, very vulnerable. A slew of Lurkers morphing down below. But that is very Psystormable. Extremely Psystormable. On the low ground. Hejek trying to dance around. Dragoons in position to maybe, actually might be able to take out some of these Lurkers just as they're spawning. And this might be a similar situation to game 1. So the Lurker's spawning, but they're going to go ahead and back off. Rotj starting to move forward, so he has managed to get midfield. On the edge of this, so able to pick off that Lurker without really taking a significant amount of damage. The Dragoon's able to get right on top of them. Pretty good upgrades this time for Rotj. 1-1-1. Now diving into it, Psystorming his own Zealots. Not the best Psystorm right there. And some other Zealots getting picked off to the north. Good Psystorm follow-up on the Hydralisk to follow. And another decent Psystorm catching some Zerglings and some additional troops. And I think Rotj is going to have to pull back, because this just looks like a... Well, never mind. The Psystorms really landing as far as the follow-up. Just coating these Hydralisks. So Rotj, and actually preserving a lot of these High Templar and some Psystorms as well. So Hejek all of a sudden down 30 supply. Psystorm is that going to... They're going to strand a High Templar. And they're going to take some hits on exit, but that was a lot of damage. Some Zealots and some Dragoons to reinforce this should be able to defend. Is that High Templar going to live? No, and Dragoons also sacrificing themselves to allow the rest of that army to get out. 3rd base now up for Rotj. So was able to establish additional base. Killed a lot of units right there to really equalize some of that count. Hejek still within 15 supply, which is about where you want to be. And he's got that 4th base up much more rapidly than Rotj had that 3rd up. I don't think Rotj yet has that saturated. It looks like it's just got a few units right there. Bit of an exchange at the 9 o'clock. It looks like there's an overwhelming amount of Hydralisks and not a lot of Psystorm here. Finally, the High Templar arriving, but they mostly took out a Zealot, and I think an Observer died in the midst of that as well. So Hejek looking in a good position. He's got that additional gas rolling. He has managed to make his way to Hive Tech. I don't see any Hive Tech units as of yet. Is he going to go for that Greater Spire once again? We'll have to see. A Dragoon getting pulled out of position. That's going to... I hate... So frustrating when Dragoons do that. Additional cannons being dropped. But Rotj in a spot of trouble now. So we got Lurkers planted at the bridge points. Yes, he has 3 bases, but where is he going to be able to establish his 4th? And in the meantime, Hejek has control of, it looks like, the rest of the map. And these are, so moving across the bridge, really well positioned Lurkers to get a good amount of damage, even in smaller numbers. And you can see how challenging it is to get across that ramp side, even with the superior army. So Rotj going to have to fall back. And now, yeah, so he's got the 3rd base, but he's very likely going to get pinned in. So it's kind of a later contain where, okay, yeah, he broke out, he's got 3 bases, but now he's going to get boxed out potentially of the middle of the map. Now trying to move his unit, I think recognizing this, trying to move his units over toward the 9 o'clock location. But moving out to the 9 o'clock location, he's going to be greeted by lurkers there as well. And we got some very well saturated bases and some good economic spending there by Hejek. The supply even, the drone lead on Hejek's field. Corsair's wandering out just to get summation, try to figure out what's going on. There is a Dark Templar bottom left. Might have been able to kill a drone that wandered that direction. Actually, I think it's still just got that single Zergling kill. That Corsair wandering across. Going to be able to, yeah, spot the fact that that 3 o'clock base is in fact up, which is triggering Rotj to get a little bit more aggressive here at the 3 o'clock. It'll help with the observer upgrade now that he's got wider range, so they're less at risk, and that allows Dragoons to do more of their work on the lurker lines. But in the meantime, Defiler Mound dropping, I believe Adrenal upgrades is complete on the Zerglings, and you got a massive amount of Hydra that's just going to push this army back potentially. I don't see, yeah, I'm not seeing a lot of Psystorm available as well with these High Templar. The available High Templar boxed out from the rest of this army, and the lurkers just impaling that rest of the line. We got more control groups to work with. No Overlord, so some Scourge here to maybe pick off the observers, but no Overlord alongside. High Templar getting picked off, finally some Psystorm, but mostly hitting their own units. Another good follow-up Psystorm though. Forcing actually, ooh, a lot of lurkers to be built on the low ground. Rotj now trying to crawl forward. Wants to make this both his 4th base and kind of a taking off point where he can go ahead and press forward onto the rest of the map. Zealots taking considerable damage. Overlord moving across, now 2 observers down, but we still have 1 remaining. Which is, well, some more Scourge running up. This is giving signal to Rotj to go ahead and retreat. It looks like the Scourge getting taken out in a probe that was already wandering down. That's how confident Rotj was in taking this position. Already wandering down to take that base gets wiped out. The High Templar out of energy, trying to sacrifice themselves forward to provide opening fire for the Dragoons. More Psystorm dropping from that material line. This feels like just a perpetual battle between the two, an absolute fist fight. Still a handful of Dragoons left, but there's also a good amount of lurkers. The Observer right there alongside. I believe the Observer plus that should be able to clear it up, but we have more Zerglings making their way in. This battle has been going on for what feels like a good 2 minutes over the location. That is 20 Hydralisks being produced by Hejek behind this, which shows you how strong his production is at this stage. And I have a feeling it might just be overwhelming. In particular, there's no more mining happening at the main. I believe the natural expansion's mined out as well, so Rotj needs to get a move on, and all sorts of bases are still operational for Hejek. So if he just keeps this up and is able to deny this base, that will end up being game. Right now, still even and actually up on supply. We have Defilers that are about to join the fight as well. What are we looking at upgrades? +3 weapons on those Hydralisks, +2 weapons, +2 armor, however, on the Dragoons and the Zealots. Additional hatcheries being planted down for macro purposes on Hejek's side. Finally, that base being dropped to the 4 o'clock location. Do we see Hejek? Overlord spotting that Dark Templar bottom left, but has not wiped it out to grab an additional base, nor has the top right base been grabbed as of yet. Looks like a drone's making its way that direction. And Rotj bullying his way down mid-map, I think maybe to make sure he can create a nice wall line so he can guarantee potentially a base bottom left for himself as things progress, because he doesn't want to, again, get boxed then into 4 bases. A probe watching that hatchery build top right. A few more units. Oh, this is just a bad rally for Rotj right now. Going to end up taking a lot of free damage and donating a handful of free troops as they're trying to make their way across. So, yeah, a lot of free base damage. He needs to be a little bit careful doing this, because leaving that natural expansion somewhat exposed behind this, Hejek could go for a counterattack and potentially a base trade, at which point he potentially could just outproduce or produce more rapidly than Rotj can, and just start swarming the natural. Looks like some lurkers also, well, the top is mined out, so that also gives opportunities for Hejek to go for some backstabs. So basically, Rotj needs to defend both the 9 o'clock location, the north, and potentially this natural expansion, and somehow prevent himself from getting boxed out and maybe establish that bottom left-hand base. Right now, I think that's his primary concern, is making sure that bottom left-hand base eventually gets up and running, starting to move the probes that direction. So he's got pretty decent saturation, back down to 2 bases. It looks like the top right just finishing off. Hejek taking more of a defensive stance overall. rather than an aggressive stance. Both players very high in supply. I am concerned about Rotj's ability to... This is kind of the moment where he might need to transition more towards Reaver Tech for the long-term play, and I have a feeling, okay, yeah, he established 4 bases, but I don't know that he's going to be able to break out or get the trades he's looking for. And on top of that, we have a Strike Force gathering top right for Hejek, maybe to go for a counterattack, wipe out some gateways and some infrastructure. Now Rotj moving bottom left, feeling a little bit more comfortable to grab that base. There is an Overlord in position to spot it. It will be very, very important for him to establish this. It looks like Rotj attacking forward while moving that probe bottom left. Hejek now diving in. Some Psystorm forward, but those lurkers pretty well spread, and now the bulk of the army there for Hejek. It looks like he didn't have a lot of it hotkeyed up, so eating a lot of Psystorm mid-map. And still a lot of units that aren't attacking into this. This is just a full lurker field in the middle. The Zerglings finally diving forward. Do they have... They have level 2 weapons, level 1 armor, it looks like, so able to just push Rotj all the way back, and with that, a 50 supply swing. I actually have Maelstrom developing here in the background for Rotj, maybe to try to equalize things. But Rotj, yeah, upon that, not dropping that base bottom left, and probably going to end up losing his base at the 9 o'clock location. That's certainly going to put him considerably behind in the late stages of this match. Moving more units out, but now he's got to worry about retaking... I don't think he's got any shuttles even, and he's going to have a hard time just saving his third, let alone going for anything else. It looks like Hejek smells blood in the water, starting to move a massive amount of Zerglings. A flood of flesh proceeding forward. You can see the blue making its way across the map. One thing that does surprise me is that Hejek isn't dedicating more attack forces to the north to create kind of a spread all directions. A lot of High Templar waiting in that position. The Zerglings, even as they're dying rapidly, getting considerable damage. Ooh, Psystorm on the probe line, not the best. Still able to wipe out considerable amounts of cannons. Actually, after that attack, Hejek dropping a lot of supply. But at the same time, he's up a considerable amount of workers, up a considerable amount of bases. So has to feel comfortable with his position overall, reestablishing the lurker lines across that 9 o'clock base. You see a lot of units flooding that direction. I'm still waiting for, I just want to see a little bit of a counterattack across the northern corridor to really tax Rotj's ability to defend on multiple fronts. One thing for Hejek is he doesn't need to attack into this. Yeah, Rotj needs to attack into him. So we have Dark Swarm dropped. I don't think any of these units are affected by that. So might have been, I don't know if Plague has been upgraded yet. We'll see in a moment. Yeah, Plague has been upgraded. Might have been better suited. Psystorm does catch that Defiler, but that's really going to soften those units up. Once again, Hejek has the supply lead and has another swarm of blue making its way towards that 9 o'clock base. One nice thing about Plague for those Archons is they do not have a lot of base health, so are not affected, but man, that's a lot of units being constructed in the background in a hurry from Hejek. Where I was expecting an attack top right from Hejek, instead Rotj now making his way across. The Lurker's going to go ahead and back off. A lot of Zealots right there. Looks like this is going to get cleaned up, and not a lot of probe kills. Wow, actually caught me off guard almost, but it looks like easy cleanup from Hejek. Let's see if that wakes him up to the possibility of top north, which might end up hurting Rotj more than anything. A few Zealots making their way forward. Not sure if Rotj... Okay, I'm sure he does, but he keeps reflexively dropping Dark Swarm, and it does not help him versus the Zealot, Stark Templar, and Psystorm. The Archon, it does a little bit. It doesn't do the base damage, but it still does the splash past it. So a wall of Archon's actually still pretty good under Dark Swarm, but you need sufficient numbers. More Psystorm dropping behind this. Defiler's still holding position. Hejek actually hurting for resources suddenly a little bit. I'm not sure if that's efficient spending or what's going on there. 20 supply. This is going to be a close one. 20 supply differential. 30 supply now for Hejek if he can get those 16 lurkers in the forward position. Some Defilers still getting picked off in the forward front, looking for some additional plague. I think most of these units have already been plagued, however. So I don't know if he's going to get a lot out of this. Backing up, that's also drawing a lot of troops forward for some additional free damage. Zergling's now peeling forward. There's only 4 Dragoons, so I don't know that a Dark Swarm, as far as a follow-up, is really worth it. And it looks like the Dragoons somehow managed to avoid that Dark Swarm in this narrow corridor, which is something, but still getting picked off as far as the follow-up. That Archon has yet to drop a Maelstrom. If there was a moment to do it, that was to do it. Looks like it managed to barely catch a handful of Lurkers. Really does not affect Lurkers at all, unfortunately. Might have been nice for an escape, but this is actually a wonderful corridor for Psystorm. Unfortunately, Rotj doesn't have enough bulk to get in the way to prevent to open up the Psystorm opportunity, so all of those High Templar are getting wiped out, and that is a lot of gas to go down the drain. Now some follow-up Psystorms, but that was well worth it for Hejek overall. Now a 60 supply lead. Observer scrambling to get back to home base. Hejek now going to go ahead and drop that base bottom left. And Rotj is now mined out. He's got 400 minerals to his name. He's still mining gas, which means he still can produce a good amount of High Templar. But look at that Lurker field. Looks like Hejek's going to back off with it and spread it out a little bit. Yeah, and this is the problem on Neo-Dark Origin precisely, is getting starved out. Over the long term, I think Hejek played this beautifully. And as long as he keeps... And you can also look at Hejek's vision right here. He's basically got... He has complete vision over his side of the map. So as soon as any little bit of yellow makes its way this direction, he can immediately pounce on it. Eating a couple Zerglings, it looks like, to drop some additional plagues. Not the best plague, but still got a good amount of units. Sending in the Zerglings as far as a follow-up. This is units that Rotj cannot afford to lose, and honestly that plague makes it all the worse. Spending the last vestiges of his resources, it looks like on High Templar, but yeah, I think now it's just going to try to wear Hejek out and go from there. Probe on the front lines, trying to attack. That actually is not a bad idea considering the situation. More beautiful Psystorms. Look at all of those Hydralisks exploding under that, but that's GG. HH actually mistype, but gonna move on to a game 3 now between Hejek and Rotj. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Thanks for listening.